Hello everyone and welcome to the Gamestars League Season 1 as we're at the very pinnacle of the group stages now going into Group H, which we'll talk a little bit in about 5-10 minutes as we go forward. I am Lethal, joined with me is Teddy as always. Teddy, how you doing mate today? You doing good?
I'm doing great. I'm excited because this is the final group of the group stage, Group H. We will have the decider matches in the next couple of days as well to see and find out which teams are going to be making it to the international playoffs. In the meantime, this is our final group. The last couple of teams that are going to be introduced to the Gamestars group stage. So I'm super excited to find out who those contestants are going to be. We will have Unima Gaming CIS, our Sky Tea Drinkers, and Bright. We also have some results from the previous days and previous groups. Lita, why don't you run us through them?
She will indeed. So Blood Diamond, Mood Gaming, SK Gaming, Zero Zone Spain, AC Milan, XO and 3T Gaming. Every single one of those teams who place first in these groups will be already qualified into the international finals. The teams that place second and third, if you've obviously not been here previously before and don't understand exactly the format, this is basically, we're going to continue the format from here. So second and third will play in a decider match to determine who will be going to the playoff to try and qualify for the international finals. But you're fourth in your group. That's it. You're out. You're done. See you later. I'm afraid we'll have to see you next season. But going back to Group H, it's going to be Unima Gaming, which is going to be an interesting one to see. And we do have a few other teams as well, but we've got a slight change to our schedule. So what's going to happen is our Sky will not be playing today, which is a bit of a shame, but no worries. We will still have 3 matches for us to go through, starting with Unima Gaming versus Tea Drinkers. And of course, Bright will not be playing our Sky, which means the loser of Unima Gaming and Tea Drinkers will not be playing their the elimination bracket in the first round anyway. So all we're going to have is the opener match, the winners match, but we're also going to have our first decider match too here, Teddy.
Yeah, indeed. Usually the decider is going to be played off last, but we will be playing this one out today as well. So one less decider we will have on Friday. So all the decider matches are going to be on Thursday and on Friday, except for this one, a bit of a preview maybe of what we can expect. Obviously, a decider match is going to be quite heated because, you know, both teams can kind of smell the taste of the international playoffs, but at the same time, they are still one loss away from going home empty-handed after this season. So it's definitely going to be super intense. I'm excited about it, but we also got some pretty nice teams on the upper bracket of things already. Obviously, you know, Tea Drinkers, or also known as Stripe Gaming, are going to be one of those teams that I think we need to really keep an eye on, especially with their recent performances. They are going to be the favorites coming into this group. But yeah, man, I feel like we got some great matches ahead of us. And obviously, first decider, man, I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see exactly what they're going to be able to do later on. Spen and the gang are obviously going to be trying to win this group in order to make life a little bit easier for them. But we do have the popular heroes. Again, we do have Sandy, Max, Jean and Barney's keeping that 4th position compared to one of the other brawlers before. His pick rate has increased slightly, but also so has his win rate. But again, just standard picks, standard popular heroes, which we've seen in the meta across the board.
Yeah, you know, we keep talking about it every single day, but Sandy, Max, and Jean have been up there basically since day one, always getting picked a lot and getting picked a lot together as well. Just a very strong trio that is so versatile, can be played on pretty much every single map and game mode. It's so impressive. I feel like Bounty might be the one game mode where you don't see them, but for the most part, you just see them everywhere, and they're definitely going to be a threat today as well to our contestants. Guys, we got a bit of a video profile coming up.
Меня зовут Данияр, мне 17 лет. Я проживаю в Московской области, это город Одинцово. Ну, у меня 2 тиммейта, Одному из них 16 исполнилось совсем недавно. Это релейбл. Он играет на довольно высоком уровне, и могу отметить его скилл на макс. Он очень хорошо мансует, и мне нравится, как он играет. Вот. А Райс у нас это про-мортис, можно сказать. Человек, который может вытащить из какой-нибудь нереальной ситуации, показать мега-скилл в определенный момент, когда это необходимо. В таком составе у нас всего лишь 2 месяца. Особых стратегий нет, просто каждый день тренироваться и показать свою лучшую игру. В планах это как минимум выйти из группы. Нам это, как мне кажется, под силам. Но там все зависит от тасовки. Я видел команды, которые отобрались. И если там, допустим, закинуть какой-нибудь Дринкерс и Иксо, это будет сделать довольно проблематично. Вот. Но также будет с ними интересно бороться, показать свою лучшую игру. Стараемся играть каждый день скримы. Примерно часа 2 уходит в день. Перед финалом, когда мы заняли топ-2 СНГ, мы тренировались по 2-3 скрима в день, это суммарно 4-6 часов занимало. Желаю всем, можно сказать, хорошего интернета, чтобы не было задержек. Также хотелось бы пожелать, чтобы команда собралась с таким боевым настроем, потому что и не никли после каких-нибудь там поражений, или если игра не пойдет. Вот. Всякое бывает в жизни. Так хотелось бы выиграть, конечно же.
That was a very good interview there. You know, they do seem very confident. They actually do want to try and win this. It's not like they see tea drinkers and go, well, you know, let's just try and get at least second or third, so then we can go to the silent match and take it from there. But they've been grinding a lot, grinding very hard. So you saw 46 hours a day. They try and get at least a few scrims in as well. Not only that, but you know, he has one of those players on his team, and we've seen a lot of it before, where one of you will end up being in a disadvantageous situation, yet somehow, some way, they will get out of it, no matter how hard the situation is. It is annoying. I don't know how some people do it sometimes, but you know, some players can just work magic here and there. But I'm glad that they don't see this as though, you know, tea drinkers are the kind of team who are just going to win it and just got that mindset as though let's just fight for the second or third spot, because it's not really going to help them in the slightest. But you know, it seems like they could be quite promising.
Yeah, I really liked his interview as well. I feel like he was both very optimistic but also realistic at the same time. He wasn't like overconfident. You know, it's always funny when someone is there like, yeah, we're going to destroy everyone. And then they're matched against a super strong team and they just go out immediately, you know. I think you need a bit of both worlds. And it seems like that's really what is going here for Unima. So I'm happy to see that. I think that's going to be helping them a lot. Mentality is always so important for esports, and Brawl Stars is no exception to that. I believe I heard we have our bans ready. Maybe they already showed. Yeah, here we go. Bell is going to be the ban for Unima, Stu for Tea Drinkers. It honestly feels like two of the go-to bans at the moment, and I'm definitely down to see that.
Yeah, these picks are perfectly understandable, seeing Bell and Stu, and at least we're not seeing those of Jeans like we did yesterday. It's like 2 or 3 out of the 4 matches we had, which was understandable to a certain extent. But yeah, you know, I want to see what they can do. You know, they did qualify, I think, through the Ukraine national qualifiers. They did come first in that, and I heard it was quite comfortable as well. So I want to see exactly what they can do on the table and see what comps they have and see what happens in the next maps and modes, which will be coming up shortly, because there's a lot of things we can talk about and it can give us a rough idea on what they can do, because we know tea drinkers do have a great reputation in Brawl Stars over the last few years since the competitive scene first began. But in terms of maps and modes, we do start off with some assembly required, and then Sneaky Field, Split, Rustic Arcade, and last but no means least, and always a possibility going to that set 5, it will be on Quick Skip.
All right. Well, you know, looking at this matchup, Unima is by no means a bad team. They have had some solid performance overall in the past couple of months, but Tea Drinkers is going to be the bigger name when it comes down to experience. They have had countless appearances in monthly finals in the last year or so, winning some of them as well. So they are a team with a lot of experience. They are a team that just has a bit of a larger international reach. So, I mean, you know, I don't want to be cutting the chances from Unima before it even starts, but they are going to be the underdogs. They are going to be on the back foot, and they will need to come up with some surprises if they want to take down Tea Drinkers here in match 1.
Surprises indeed. The only worrying thing I had with regards to what they were talking about in terms of practice, yeah, they practice a lot, they practice hard, but they don't have specific strategies in terms of like what they do in terms of a game plan. And it's a little bit worrying sometimes because we know there's counter comps, we know they're trying to counter each other every way possible. But in terms of strategies, I think they rely. It sounds like a team that rely more on their mechanics and their fundamentals rather than just straight up tactics.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that is going to work out amazingly when it comes down to lower tier teams, because you're just able to outshine them very consistently and without really having to out strategize them. The problem is against a team like Tea Drinkers, they are all very solid mechanically. They are all very good with the strategies and the comps and all that stuff as well. So that's where it's going to get a bit more dangerous, especially since, you already see the Bell as the ban. It's a very generic ban. It's not super exotic. It's not something particularly targeted towards a specific player in a team. I always hear that against Tea Drinkers, you need to go for the max ban because they're super strong with max. The FKC, which is one of the best maxes in the world. Max is incredibly strong at the moment, and it also enhances Gene and Sandy, which are all playable as well. So I'm expecting to see a lot of that. The Gene, Max, Sandy on the side of Tea Drinkers, and Unima not going for the ban of Max, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if they were like super prepared for this one, that would be the go-to ban because a lot of teams go for it. But obviously, we're gonna have to find out in play how it works out. I think Unima are a team that can do it, but it is gonna be an incredible challenge, and they're gonna need to show up with their peak performance if they want to stand a chance against Tea Drinkers.
Funny enough, speaking of Max, actually one of the players on Unima loves to play Max. This is one of his favorite brawlers. He loves to play him any chance he gets. And that's the next question, really, isn't it? Did you want to ban, one of your favorite picks from their side because you know how good Casey is on it, or do you feel like you can do a better job? It's just a matter of like how often he uses them in each mode and what the comps are. But sounds like we could probably expect Max in multiple comps on the side of Unima because they're not trying to use his in terms of fundamentals of what he can do in game. So maybe they just feel like they're more confident with him, or maybe they didn't actually know that Max is one of the main brawlers on the side of Tea Drinkers. It could be a number of reasons, really.
Yeah, I just feel like, in my opinion, in Brawl Stars, you really just when you're the underdogs, you need to make sure that comp-wise you can get that advantage, because having a better comp is gonna mean that you have a bit of a natural advantage even before the game starts. As soon as you hop in, you just have that natural advantage from countering this and this brawler and having those affinities that go your way. And just, the max being played out, you just don't really want to go on an even playing field against a team like Tea Drinkers. Otherwise, it's going to be an extreme challenge because mechanically, it's not likely that they will be able to outshine Tea Drinkers. It's possible. I don't know them super well. I've seen them play a couple of times in the past, but that's about it. So I don't know. I would disagree with their ban here. Bell is a really strong brawler. It is a brawler that you want banned. But here against Tea Drinkers, is it the most efficient? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they have something prepared for us and they will be able to surprise us. Here we go. Already some of what I was talking about earlier. No max though on either side. We have the Sandy and the BB making the difference. Siege bot number 1 seems like it's gonna go the way of Tea Drinkers pretty easily, getting every single bold on the ground already. Level 4 Siege bot pushing up.
Apologies about that. So you can see they're already pushing straight through, and like you said, it's very uncommon with how that actually works. And look at the amount of damage they've already taken, even with the first siege bot. Already, Teddy, they've already taken back. That was a bit of a shock there, especially after that first siege bot.
Oh my, a one push siege, off the bat in game number 1, the first siege bot is enough to get a win. That's quite impressive, especially with something like a BB that is not going to be the best at getting that, a constant damage on the say that burst of damage. Sure, the bubble is nice, but it's only gonna get like 2 hits, and afterwards, if you want to go attack it, you need to really overextend. So the fact that Tea Drinkers make it work is extremely impressive. I mean, obviously they are the favorites, but making it happen in such a fashion is definitely already a message early on, a statement that they just want to get over this match as quick as possible and not let anything build up in Unima's side of things, not give them any false hopes, not give them any signs that they can beat them. And that's the way to do it early on. You want to be convincing about those against those lower tier teams. It happens so often in esports and in Brawl Stars as well, that teams will tend to kind of lower their level to their opponents. If they are the heavy favorites, they will just like start playing a bit worse than usual. Tea Drinkers, none of that so far.
Absolutely none at all. I've got absolutely no complaints for everything they did. Their timing of their attack and how they're pushing through, every piece of the puzzle was just there. And I felt like they got trapped into a corner way too quickly. They were clumped up I think they were all kind of fidgeting a little bit. They're very undecisive of what they wanted to do next as their next plan of action. Maybe they didn't expect Tea Drinkers to get so many bolts so quickly. Well, we didn't expect them to do it on the first siege bot. Maybe 2, that's more understandable to that extent, but nothing like that. So that was a ridiculous start from them in terms of like how good that was. But we'll have to see if Tea Drinkers can do a repeat on that in this second game in set number 1, or if Unima will actually play on the back foot once more.
Yeah, I really like this count from Unima. I don't know if it's the right answer, but at least it is some sort of answer. And I think that's so important. In Brawl Stars, you need to make sure that if you are the underdog, you play around as much as possible with the comps, with the picks, and you make sure that you can build some sort of a natural advantage. So far, the gamble is not working out amazingly. It's definitely a better start for them than last game. They have a bolt secured. I doubt this is going to be a one-push siege bot, as Tea Drinkers, they are aware that they can't make it work. They will give them some more respect and some more space to work with. Unima on the retake. Now it's not going to be an easy one, as we already have Spen with the pool, the follow-up kill as well. Reliable is low HP, falls to Tom, and it only leaves Angel Tens left alive.
Tea Drinkers still have those 5 bolts to the 2 of Unima, but still Tea Drinkers are really pushing up on him here, trying to take down Reliable, but he's only on 416 HP. Gets taken down by Barley there, as Tom managed to clean him up beautifully. As now they're on the back foot. The siege bot is coming in and already trying to set him back as much as possible, but push back the block a little bit just to at least buy some time. But this is a good defense so far from Unima, even though they may take a little bit of damage here. So this first siege bot is going to be so vital. But as I say, but I don't think it even matters here, as actually took him out again, even though it wasn't the first one, it was the second one who managed to finish him off nicely. So that was a very clean set. Maybe not as clean as game number 1, but still, after that second siege bot, it was more than enough.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, was it? Unima not really standing a chance so far. Siege is a really harsh game mode. Your mistakes are gonna get punished big time, and there is a real consequence for every single move you do. If you take the wrong decision, you're gonna get punished for it. And in Siege, it's just so extreme. We saw it here. Any mistakes from Unima? Look at Angel Tens laughing on the left-hand side. He just knew that it was over even quicker than they expected. Look at that, only 2 kills for Unima this set, 16 for Tea Drinkers, a very one-sided result. They didn't take any damage on their Ikes, which makes sense because there was no siege bot for Unima whatsoever. Finishing the entire set with only 3 siege bots is definitely very impressive.
That's incredible, and you saw that the damage almost triple compared to Unima's, completely outclassed in every way. But that was on Siege. We have to see if there's anything different here on Brawl Ball on Sneaky Fields. Now, we're not really too sure what we can do here. It's not that there's a lot of weaknesses, it's just the fact that the skill gap, the barrier between these two teams seems to be pretty large in comparison. But, will some of his maps and modes make any difference for him here, Teddy?
Well, I feel like Brawl Ball always has the advantage for smaller teams that it is a very popular game mode, so they will play it on their spare time, even when they're not necessarily like scrimming. or playing in a tournament, this is the kind of game modes they will go to if they want to push their brawlers in trophies or whatever not. So maybe this could be a bit better for them. The same advantage will go to tea drinkers. It's also a map where you can surprise your opponents with some crazier comps. This is not the worst here from Unima, to be honest. They have the Ems, which is a good counter against tanks. It is gonna get taken out, but it's gonna create enough space for Reliable to at least get the ball out of sight for a little bit. It's a good defense from Unima. They have a bit of a better comp just because that Ems is such a good counter against the tanks. But look at this, Ben is looking to find Reliable. He is able to pick up the kill, goes for the roll, but the ball gets lost on the way. This is still gonna be a goal coming through for tea drinkers.
A very strong start from them. Depends if Unima can even make any kind of difference and get that dent into the armor and try and push on forward. But as you can see, Casey trying to push out as far as he can. Doesn't really do too much, but at least he's done a fair amount of damage for them to push straight through. But couldn't really do anything anymore. He had way too much health as he was pushing for that ball. And again, a very quick game number 1 there in set 2. And wouldn't surprise me if it was the exact same situation scenario in game number 2 in this set.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Experience-wise, those two teams are just not comparable. Mechanically, there's no comparison either. Strategically, whether it's like micro or macro, the comps or in-game movement, it's all going to be better from tea drinkers. That's what we expect in such a matchup. Unima, I do want to praise their comps. I do have to say they went for some surprising stuff already. And I think that's what you need to do if you want to beat a team like tea drinkers. If you want to win your match as an underdog, you need to play around as much as you can around the comps. That's also where, there's a bit more of a luck factor as well. Which is going to be triggered by you going for some very extreme comps, like we saw Triple Tank coming in Siege earlier. So definitely a good thing on their end. Obviously, they're not able to make it work anyways just yet, but with some slightly better luck and maybe a bit more momentum and such, I could see them taking a game or a set here and there. It just so far they haven't really had any luck with their comps. The Ems was decent against the tanks, but when you have something like Daryl that can dive onto your face, the Ems not gonna fare too well up close. It's gonna be much better with a slightly longer distance. And yeah, just couldn't really make it work in this one. It was better than Siege for sure, but it was still very one-sided.
Yeah, it's hard to tell the difference really, because I know they're the different game modes, but you can tell the situation is still the same. They are getting dominated quite hard here, and now they've got to try and do the same thing in game number 2. But this is what we don't have strict strategies, like across the board, trying to think of a not just a count in terms of comp, but in terms of how you want to progress, from start to finish or in the middle of the game, how you want to try and transition. But they can't seem to adapt. They haven't been able to transition in any way. I just feel like tea drinkers are just here to play, here to stay, and you saw there that they're even drinking their teas whilst even playing mid-game. They're pretty chilled about how they're trying to progress into this group stage. But Unima aren't out as of yet. This is set to game number 2. Well, the fun of Unima can bring this back in any way, but it has been very one-sided on the side of tea drinkers.
Yeah, tea drinkers was a push early on here as well. Reliable will be able to dodge the charge shot from KC. Angel Tents, not so much. Going to be low spend LC, just able to smoothly navigate from player to player, and that is going to be goal number 1 going to tea drinkers. I mean, Angel Tents does not look very tense about this one, to be honest. I see him constantly smiling. I think they know this is a tough one. Look at it, spam,
yeah.
Almost getting another goal there, but goes down before he stands a chance. This could be a push, actually. That's going to be a goal for... Oh, no.
Oh dear, I don't think we expected that. Tom managed to stop it from going over the goal line. I don't think he would have even been able to anyway, in terms of who is there or not. But yeah, sadly for him, that's not going to be the case, as that was probably their one opportunity to try and come back from this. But now they'd have to play this safe and see what they can do. But you can see Reliable just trying to stay alive. Angel is as well. And Ray's also pushed in massively. He's going to go around that left side. But we've got a couple of players still sitting back, making sure he doesn't push up too far in case they don't have enough DPS to take him down. But again, it should be fine. We can't really imagine Tea Drinkers even being able to get caught off guard like that. But again, you can see still getting pushed in. Angel still getting pushed back, but almost taken down there, Spen there, and he actually does take him down in the end. But how long for? As KC is still on that right side, just trying to put in a little bit of damage here and there, taking a lot of damage himself, but hasn't really given him much time to even recover. But Tom's going to try and push in anyway, and just kicking the ball back just to see if they can get the flank round. But we've only got 35 seconds left here, Teddy.
Yeah, this is not gonna be easy for Unima as they lose yet another player. Tea Drinkers was a good setup to close things off. The wall is getting destroyed, but the shot isn't exactly near that area, and that is going to be Spen pushing up, loses control of the ball. 15 seconds, still a chance for Unima to make something out of this game, but it's looking less and less likely as they all get melted down. The trick shot from Tom to close things out with some extra flavor, with some extra style, and that's going to be 2-0 in sets for Tea Drinkers.
Nice to see Tom do that with a bit of flair. It's always good to see, you know, winning in style. But even then, though, like everything, like, you know, their aim, their mechanics, it's just all there in the right time and the right place. And again, it's just another situation. Doesn't matter what mode it is or what map they're going to be playing on. Tea Drinkers just seem to be absolutely all over them like a rash. And it's hard to say, because I was going to say to you, Teddy, like, what do you think Unima can do against them to even try and recover and, you know, reset their mindset to go forward? But I don't think there's anything they can do. It's not just that there's one or two minor or major problems. It's just too many numerous things which are just adding up to a huge amount of mistakes.
Yeah, it's just that kind of a match where there is a team that has been a pro player, was former world champions from 2019, and on the other hand, you have Unima that have yet to really set their foot high up in the competitive scene for EMEA and EECA. So it's just a tough matchup for them, to be honest. I still think they didn't look like awful, for sure not. But against Tea Drinkers, you need way more than that if you want to actually stand a chance. That's going to be justifying that 2-0 lead. I mean, you know, we have the stats in front of us. It's just very, very one-sided in every single aspect. Unima just not able to make too much happen just yet.
No, not yet. As again, you know, as we mentioned, it is pretty one-sided. We expected, you know, more of a closer bounce, but, you know, we didn't expect it to be this much of a dominant position. But we will be playing Hot Zone on splits and see what they can do there. You know, I would mention Rustic Arcade and Quick Skip as well, but how things have been panning out here, it's not really looking too good. Even if they corrected their bans, possibly, you know, banning that Max instead, like you mentioned in the pre-game, then it could make a little bit difference, but technically it will not, just due to the fact that they haven't even played him at all. So it's not really going to make too much of a difference. But the only thing they can do here is just to, you know, reset their mindset, go forward, and just take this as a learning experience. Because, you know, let's be honest, it wouldn't be a surprise if it does go to a 6-game streak for Tea Drinkers and they end up winning the series 3-0.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this is pretty much what we expected from this one. At the same time, I feel like Unima could still be able to steal a little game away if they manage to have a nice counter comp going their way. But so far, you know, I was saying earlier, I was glad to see some sort of response to the comps from Tea Drinkers. Unima have been switching up from comps here and there, trying to go for something a bit more extreme, hoping to get a bit of more of a one-sided advantage from the natural advantages you get from counter comps. Yeah, it didn't really work out so far. Something very classic on the side of Unima. Very, you know, like April, March meta. And right now we have the current meta on the side of Tea Drinkers going for the Colt MB. It's very understandable because the Colt MB is gonna come down to some longer range fights which tea drinkers mechanically they are going to be superior, so it's going to give them an advantage if Unima decided to go for that as well. We will see how they're able to make it work anyways. Raze is able to dodge that shot. The next one from KC doesn't connect either, but Raze takes the left-hand side. A bit of a lead for Unima so far. In the hot zone, it can turn around quite quickly. As you see, Tom picking up a nice kill, stands in the puddle a bit too long and will fall himself. Very intense fights on both sides, but Unima with a decent start.
Absolutely. Tom's made some great pushes at the start. That one not so much, but he managed to do a fair amount of damage for Spence to possibly clean up here, which he managed to clean up once. So Tom pushing in there wasn't all but lost, and Reliable still trying to hold on to that zone, but Tom and Spen are ready to push. Spen is just pushing up to KC just because of the fact that KC was quite weak, so just making sure he is okay and will be able to survive until the dying moments. As you can see, he only needs 12%, and Tea Drinkers do have only at 59%, so Unima could be able to survive this out and actually be able to take this. It's Reliable, does take down KC. Tom does take down Suspense, but Reliable takes down Tom at the very end in a trade. So good start there from Unima.
Yeah, I think this was really good from Unima. Really solid comp on their end. They had the Surge that can get some nice 3 taps on the B, stuff like that, TP in her face, and then have the advantage of shooting first because he's the one initiating the fight. I do feel like the Edgar was a bit of a risky pick from Tea Drinkers. I think it was on Tom. It's a really hard brawler to pull off at the moment. It's pretty... it's not very good. Let's just say it that way. It's not a very strong brawler at the moment. It is going to be a counter against that Barley, but I did find that he wasn't really chasing the Barley all that much. He wasn't really able to get up close. So yeah, didn't really work out. I think that if the comps were the same and we just had the Edgar being something else, we would have seen a better chance for Tea Drinkers to close this one out, get to 5-0, get to match point. Instead, it's going to be a game for Unima. Definitely nice, to redeem themselves a bit. We'll see now if they're able to capitalize on that and actually pick up a whole set, because single games don't really matter too much. But yeah, that's going to be a whole new challenge.
Yeah, this ain't really a momentum shift. I think they feel like now that as soon as Tea Drinkers or Tribe are actually going to change their comments back to something more standard and meta, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, we're going to be in a lot more, we're in deep trouble now in comparison. We have to say, it's nice risk though, maybe they're just trying something in a tournament setting just to test the waters and see what they can do. Some people do prefer it in a tournament setting rather than, in scrims, just due to the fact that they want to see a team actually try and test him properly in a tournament setting just when the pressure's on rather than in a scrim. So we'll have to see, or maybe they were just trolling a little bit. I don't know. It could be numerous factors in.
Yeah, I feel like Edgar is also just a really fun brawler to play. So it could be that as well, and like you are the favorite, you are winning by big, so you can afford to go for that race. Nice try there to dodge that shot with a super, but he is gonna fall. KC is able to stay alive quite a bit, and that means that he's getting that super, will be providing so much more healing, but he gets tagged down quite low HP, opening up the walls. Never mind, he's actually playing the heal here Reliable, so trying to get the Barley to be as tanky as possible. That could lead to a bit of an advantage for Unima. Their comp, once again, is pretty strong. I would say that Rico, for the most part, is going to be countering the Surge. Surge can win the fights, but he's going to need to TP right into his face if he wants to stand a chance. This is going to be one of those encounters. Raze makes it out alive, going to get an extra stage secured to his Surge, as well as keeping that buff that Reliable sent him earlier.
Yeah, it's currently 57%, 58% to 36. As Unima are in the lead, they are trying to do what they can to come back into this. And Ray's so weak here, and finally Casey managed to take him down. Tom is there with him to try and counter-attack in any way, but it looks like he's struggling just a little bit here as Spain has had to pull back from that zone. But then again, you can see that Tea-Drinkers have caught up massively compared to their original performance. Only 3% behind here, as Unima haven't really had any score in terms of the zones for the last minute.
Yeah, 60% on both sides, as Raze is not really able to engage too much on that left-hand side. Spen and Tom with a nice pinch, one of the pinches you can only get with that Barley and Rico combination, just covering so many different angles between the bounces and the throwing capabilities from the Barley. They're able to cover so much ground. It is going to be Tea Drinkers taking the lead. Angel going to help out on the left-hand side is going to cost him his life here as Spen takes him down with a nice super, and Tea Drinkers, they are looking to get towards that match point, need 20% more to make it work.
Angel's been pretty good with that Barley during that first half, but now, even though the range is in his favour, he's been actually quite, struggling to push up here with the pan on that right side. It's been very difficult. Spen gets a kill. Casey gets one of his own just due to the fact that they now know that Unima have to push in to make a difference or to make something happen in this match, but it could be too little too late here, as Spen and Casey have already done so much damage, and Spen is still pushing Reliable all the way back. It will be taken at any second now, which he does. Good kill there from Spen, and they realise it's just too little too late, and Tea Drinkers are the one who tie up this set.
Spen looking to get a bit of BM, a bit of extra damage on those players before the end. There was a percentage left, and he was just like sitting in front of the zone waiting for them to peak and maybe feed a couple more tags, get those stats up for himself and his team. And Tea Drinkers are going to get to match point. It is still set point for Unima, so they still have a chance of coming back if they win this next game. But this was looking much better from Tea Drinkers, at least, regarding this set. On the other hand, I feel like Unima played pretty decently as well, until it really fell apart. I think one of the big moments was Raze going down after being buffed up, after being stage 3, having some extra HP from the Colonel Ruffs as well. So it was just a lot of stuff that he had, to his name, and falling on that left-hand side just made it really hard for him to catch up afterwards and recover from that situation. So good stuff from Unima, to be honest. I feel like this was the most competitive set from far they've had in this match, but it is going to be match point for Tea Drinkers nevertheless.
Yeah, it certainly has been indeed. It's definitely night and day compared to what we saw in those first two sets. You're absolutely right. And it's very hard in that situation, especially with the Barley as well, with the range he has and how he can keep it out the hot zone. It can be very tough, very difficult. And I think you saw there that Tea Drinkers were just being very patient in terms of how they want to try and push up and take a couple of them down, or at least push them back even further to their side, which they did do a couple of times, but it was only towards the end because they saw that they were just waiting for that opportune moment to push in once they've used their attack, and they managed to do it. They were perfectly fine. You saw then that they barely got any percentages down once they hit that 60 mark, and with that Pam as well on the right side, Spen and Casey did a great job just working together to continue to push them back on that right side.
Yeah, I feel like overall, comp-wise, it was really close. I even think that maybe Unima had a very slight advantage, but having a slight advantage is often not gonna make the cut against a tier 1 team like Tea Drinkers, and early on they have control of both sides. Casey looking to heal up a bit will get tagged by Angel, but picks up the kill nevertheless. 500 HP left on his side. He could one-shot Reliable, gonna go for the TP to just smoothly take him out. Raze with the trade, but Spen is able to clear things up. So far, full on control for Tea Drinkers.
It's looking promising and looking very good for Tea Drinkers. They've got a commanding lead right at the very start of this during the first minute of this matchup. Ray does take out KC in the process, and Reliable's just trying to hold on to that zone, but sadly for him he won't be able to. But then again, at the same time, at least he manages to stay alive there. But you can see Thomas just being such a nuisance, just making sure that he can use that Barney to keep him outside the hot zone. Reliable and Angel are trying to see if they can at least take out KC. KC, again, continuing to be a nuisance as he takes out one member of Unima, and they only need 14% more here to take this set and the series.
Yeah, 10% more. It has to come from that right-hand side. Raze really low HP. The tag there from Tom not actually going to be connecting, so he will stay alive for now, but Spen is able to reset his heal. Bit of a struggle for Tea Drinkers to take back right side control, because Unima are concentrating a lot of their resources over there, but it should be closed out here as Spen will finish things off with that final kill, and Tea Drinkers get the 3-0 sweep against Unima Gaming.
Not as comfortable as the first two sets, but nonetheless it was still a commanding performance all rounds. And Unima, they showed some effort. They managed to show they still had some fuel in the tank, but it just wasn't enough. You could see the adaptation from Tea Drinkers was just a little more fierce in comparison. They'll be able to read their opponents no problem, which as a standard tier 1 team, that's not really a surprise in the slightest. But we will be going to our next match quite soon, and we'll have to see if Unima can actually fight back later on when they're in that decider match.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a tough match for Unima. I feel like they showed us some signs of promise in this match, especially in that final set. They showed us a good mentality as well, facing a pretty dominant team like Tea Drinkers. I really like how they played it around, try to experiment a bit more with scums, go for some riskier stuff. Exactly how you should be playing those kinds of matches. Tea Drinkers will the far superior team as they take them out 3-0 in sets, 2-1 for that final set here. Definitely the one where we saw the best stuff from Unima, but they were still quite a bit behind Tea Drinkers.
They certainly were indeed, but at least it was a better performance from what we've seen in those first two sets. 44,000 more damage in that last set there. And yeah, the first set was just very, very worrying. Like, taking out your opponent with just one siege bot and then two in the next one, it's not looking too good. The only thing I can say is just, absorb anything you've learned during this matchup and just these sets alone in the series, and then just take it from there. Because you've got to remember, even if Unima do qualify for international finals at some point, then they've still got a few weeks to kind of rectify what needs to be done. Sure, there's a strong possibility that they may still lose, but at least they'll be able to keep the series a lot more closer and show a lot more improvement, because it's very, very difficult in a game like Brawl Stars, to make such a huge impact and such a huge skill ceiling in just a matter of weeks. But at least they can probably help themselves against other teams from the experience they've had against Tribe.
Yeah, for sure. It's super important, and I think that's what I like a lot about those events with open qualifiers and such. It just gives the opportunity to a lot of teams to compete at a high level against higher level teams, because Unima, they're not going to be scrimming against Tea Drinkers. Like, it's just they're not in their scrim partners or whatever not. So this is a chance to play against them, to learn from that and come back stronger. Obviously, you don't just learn from playing, you also need to go back and analyze what happened, try to figure out what made the difference in those games. But it was very convincing from Tea Drinkers. I feel like that final set is definitely where things started getting a bit more interesting, but it was a bit late for Unima to wake up and get started. They aren't out just yet. They will be falling to the lower bracket. Obviously, since Our Sky isn't playing, they will get a free win over there and go directly to their decider match, which is going to be Tea Drinkers. I forgot the name of the other team, but versus the team that got a free win against Our Sky, basically.
Oh yeah, that'll be Team Bright, I think. It's looking bright for them at the moment, but the fact that they've got to play Tea Drinkers, it's going to look pretty dim for them here, considering the circumstances of what we just witnessed. And you saw there from the kills as well, just under a 2.3 KD. So again, great stuff there from Tea Drinkers. So in the next match, Leighton, will be the winners match. It will be Tea Drinkers versus Bright. And if you guys have just joined us, you can see that Unima Gaming are supposed to play Our Sky, but sadly Our Sky are unavailable for this matchup in this group. So Unima Gaming will be going through on a default win, and they'll be playing the loser of Tea Drinkers versus Bright very shortly.
Yeah, indeed. Tea Drinkers versus Bright is going to be our next match. We will have our first decider match of the day after that one. The other deciders from Group A until I believe it was F is gonna be played. It could be E actually. Are gonna be played tomorrow, and then F until G. That doesn't make sense, does it? Well, I will rectify that later on. It's a lot of letters, and I'm getting all confused. But Tea Drinkers versus Team Bright is up next, and I think that we got some little insights from Tea Drinkers coming up in their video profile.
My name is Code Tom. I'm from the UK and I play for Tea Drinkers. Brawl Stars for me is an esport, a job, and a hobby all at the same time. So I have 3 teammates. Casey, who's also from the UK, he's 19, and Drage, who's 15, not playing competitive right now, also from the UK, and Spen, who is 22, I think, from the UK as well, yeah. So I've met Spen a couple times now, but I haven't met Casey yet. So yeah, definitely excited to meet up with them again. No, I would definitely say that we have a very much a work relationship and not really a friend relationship with them. Yeah. It's just important to make sure we know that we're just working together and we're not friends, yeah. My favorite mode is probably Knockout, because you can 3v1 in clutch and it's pretty epic, yeah. So our goal is obviously to win the tournament and get the dub. So there's obviously some good teams like SK, Clash, and of course Big, and some other big teams as well. So yeah, we're definitely excited to play against them. In this tournament, well, it'll just be like usual practice that we do for the main events. So we just do scrims daily and playing the game, I guess. Thanks for supporting us. Make sure to use code Tom and code Spen. Thank you very much.
Nice to see a bit of banter from Tom, isn't it? As usual, Teddy. Nice to see his beautiful face once again, talking about how his team is going to be performing and who they look forward to playing against. But they just seem pretty chilled and just want to crack on, really, don't they?
Yeah, well, you know, Tom and his colleagues, not friends, he's not calling them friends,
oh, yeah,
purely word partners, are going to be facing Team Bright up next. We haven't seen anything from Team Bright so far, because they got that free win against our Sky earlier that we're not able to show up, which does mean that, you know, it's their time to shine. It's their time to reveal themselves, and hopefully they can do it in an explosive manner, because that's what they're gonna need if they want to take down a team of the likes of Tea Drinkers. So it's gonna be a challenge for them. Tea Drinkers should be pretty comfortable in this one. We have the bans coming up right about now. Stu is gonna be the ban from Tea Drinkers once again, and then Bell from Bright. So actually the same exact ban since the previous match. It seems like Tea Drinkers, they want to get the Stu out pretty consistently. It's the second time in a row they go for the Stu ban. Bell, I mean, it's a super strong brawler. You just want it out of the mix. Once again, I feel like something like a Max, like a Gene, could be a strong ban as well, because KC is known as one of the best Maxes in the EU. Spen is known as pretty much universally the best Gene in EU. So when you have that in front of us, you kind of want it out of the way, because even if you go for the mirror matchup, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to win those, because you're facing some of the best players on those brawlers. So maybe a bit of a mistake once again to leave them in the mix, but on the other hand, it is a show of confidence that they go for you know, the generic ban, the new brawler, the hottest thing at the moment in Brawl Stars.
And here we are, the maps and modes coming up in this series between these two juggernauts. We've got Robo Highway, second one will be Purple Paradise, Bank Shot, and if it leads up to it in set 4 and 5, it will be Hot Potato, and the last one is it could be Unfolly. But even then, it's going to be very, very difficult, because I'm pretty sure that if Bright did watch that last series, Teddy, they're probably scratching their head thinking, like, my God, like, you know, how they just got dominated, you know, compared to, I think they were the Ukrainian #1 team. I think these are the Turkish #2 team qualifying in their nationals, and they're not going to be too pleased. They're probably already thinking, like, you know, it's not really too much pressure, because the pressure should be on Tea Drinkers just due to the fact that their status in the Brawl Stars competitive scene, and they've been one of those big tier 1 teams. But Tea Drinkers aren't really that bothered, you know. They're not suffering from any pressure or anything like that. They're just trying to crack on, try and win the group if they can. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did anyway. But the question is, you know, how strong are Bright, you know, compared to what we see from Unima? I would probably say, you know, roughly the same, if not maybe a little bit worse. But only time will tell, as, you know, that first set will be the indicator.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to tell, especially since we haven't seen them at play today, nor before in Gamestars, because we did not have the chance of casting the regional qualifiers, which Bright seems to have qualified from the Turkish qualifiers as well. So our Turkish colleagues probably covered that. It's definitely a tough match for them. It's just not the easiest for the least to be facing someone like Tea Drinkers in your decider match, rather on your winner's match. But on the other hand, it does mean that even if they lose, it's not over just yet. They still have that decider match coming up. I think they should just see it as an opportunity to learn and take as much as they can from it. But if it's a loss, they shouldn't feel too harshly about it. I've seen quite recently, it was in the monthly finals, there was a team that played against SK Gaming first round, which are the heavy favorites in EMEA at the moment, and they lost, and they actually played really well, but they still lost. And then they were talking about like quitting the game, and it was a super disappointing performance. And everyone was just there like, dude, you just played against the best team possibly in the world. Why are you taking it that harshly if you lose? Obviously, you want to be striving and aiming for a win, but at the same time, you got to stay realistic and you got to make the most out of what you get. And I think that's the mindset that Bright have to go for in this match. Take it as a learning process, get as much as you can out of it, and be ready for the next match if that's gonna be required.
Yeah, I've had a few teammates like that, and if you have teammates like that, you're not going to learn. You're just going to stay in the same tier, if not get any worse, whilst everyone else just improves, and whilst you stay on the same level. It's one of the most frustrating things to have when you have those kind of teammates. But end of all that, we are going to set one, game one. If you're just joining us, this is the winners match in the best of 5 between these two teams, and we're going to see exactly what flavour we're going to get from T-Drinkers, if they could be as dominant as they were in that last match against Unima, or if Bright can make up and put up an effort and see what they can do here as they can try and make a challenge against them.
Yeah, first Siege bot is going to be a tie, as there is a bit more control in favor of T-Drinkers so far. Bright definitely holding their own ground, but they will be losing that left lane now as well, which means they lose full on control. This is going to be pretty much certainly a Siege bot for T-Drinkers already. The question is how many bolts are going to be leaking to the ranks of Bright. Every bolt they pick up now is going to be so immensely valuable when it comes down to that final Siege bot, trying to secure a bit of a lead for the preparation phase. It's not looking like any have leaked since the draw was announced. This could be a chance, but Spen was a good TP backwards, is able to bank the bolt. Anyways, KC falls to Mr. Leslie. This is going to be a couple of bolts now at the end, picked up by Bright, so they will pick up a nice lead for the final Siege bot. It is only 5 bolts. 5 bolts is good, but it is definitely not going to be securing that Siege bot just yet. If T-Drinkers can hold on to control as well as they did in the previous preparation phase, they should be fine.
Definitely, yeah. It's like you said, they're only 5 behind, and that's more than doable if you've got that mid control, which they do have currently. And you can see they're Bright are just trying to wait for each other to try and recover, to see if they can try and respawn and then push up and coordinate. But again, Tom already's got that first kill, managed to get the second as well. And Casey's trying to go for that third, but Spen's managed to clean him up anyway. And look at the bolt difference already, as Bright didn't manage to get one, just due to the fact that Tribe just took full control of the map throughout most of the course of this game. Siege bot's going to be sent down, and that's pretty much all but done for Bright.
Yeah, maybe not the most convincing retakes from Bright, to be honest, especially that final one. I think that at the moment that it was already decided that they would not be able to get that second Siege bot, or like the first one, since it was a draw, they should have gone in and try to force things on one specific lane, so they would be ensuring that they somehow at least have one member of the team surviving with 1 or 2 bolts. That would have been a way to ensure that they get some more bolts for the final Siege bot. At the end, having that 5 bolt lead, it's a bit of a critical situation, because you're not entirely sure whether you should focus one lane or multiple, because it is not a big lead. But at the same time, if you do manage to pick up one lane, maybe in a 3v1 you can get that kill, and that means that you get that lane and you have an easier access towards the middle, as a next lane to expand towards, and you can stand a chance at getting that final Siege bot. It just wasn't very structured from Team Bright, especially for those retakes where they just kind of went back to their original lanes, going for 1v1s, which, when Tribe or T-Drinkers have their defensive positions set up, you're not going to be winning those.
Absolutely not. When you got your fundamentals locked down there and then, you have no chance. And you saw then they got a little bit too eager towards the end. They were kind of waiting for each other, kind of not. I think one of the players on that right side was actually just pushing a little bit too far, just overextended only slightly, put them in a 2v3 scenario whilst one of them was recovering, and that was pretty much all but done. You saw there, it was just an accident waiting to happen towards the end. And I think they just got a bit too aggressive, knowing that, there's still at least 4 bolts behind, and they had to make something happen to get the next few if it was available. But so it was just way too late. But it just shows what difference it made, just waiting that extra 2 seconds to coordinate that push going forward. But again, yeah, like you said, if they're all in different lanes, it's not going to make too much of a difference. But still got another game to play in set number 1 to see if they can make any difference compared to that last game, to see if they can adapt themselves any better. And it was a bit more promising compared to what we saw from Unima, considering the circumstances that they was in. But we'll have to see what T-Drinkers, if they can do, if they can carry on this win streak. And I think this will be the 8th game in a row if they take this. Oh no, sorry, it won't be.
Yeah,
I did lose one.
They lost one earlier, but honestly, I don't think that takes anything away from their dominant performance so far.
No.
It is gonna be Siege bot number 1 going the way of T-Drinkers, not a single bolt leaked either. And if you look at a bit of a trend from the previous game and at the patterns from Bright, I hope for them they're able to get some more successful retakes, but they didn't show too many signs of promise when it comes down to those retakes. And look at that, 1 Siege push, level 4 Siege bot to close it out for T-Drinkers as they secure set 1 already.
Didn't even get a word in, Teddy. That's literally how quick it was. And that is a rarity. But, they did the same thing earlier to Unima, didn't they? So it was just one of those things. It's just the only difference is it's in game 2 instead of game 1. But again, great stuff from T-Drinkers. Just pretty standard from what you see from a tier 1 team. Very, very strong. We all know exactly what they're capable of. And, the history, the wealth of knowledge and the history from the players in this team. Just another great start from T-Drinkers. And let's be honest, it could be, a similar scenario, and it's probably just going to continue on over the next couple of sets. We'll see.
Yeah, it's looking good. I think that's the least we can say. It's looking very good. And to be honest, I even want to say very bright for T-Drinkers. As for Team Bright, not so much. Look at that, 3 kills in that entire set. Yeah, that's just not going to be enough, is it?
Absolutely not. Over double the damage and 20 kills to 3. Almost a 6.2, 6.4 KD. Absolutely ridiculous stuff from T-Drinkers. It was literally a replica of the set against Unima. It's just the games were just the opposite way around. So it's just a question of if Bright can do anything more or different in these next couple of sets, depending on the game modes. And to be honest, I don't think so. It seems like they are going to have a one-way ticket on that struggle bus going forward, as T-Drinkers just continuing their dominance throughout the course of this series. But remember, this is only set number 1. We've still got a few more sets to go, considering the circumstances. We're going to check the maps, but instead of that, we're just going to go straight into set 2.
Yeah, Purple Paradise. It is the 1v1. The 1v1 playground, I suppose, as it is going to come down to that long-range aim for Spen and the sustain for Bright. They have the blue star on Bright, but look at that, the pull from Tom as Casey picks up the kill will be quite difference-making. Nice tag from Spen, has to jump backward. That creates a bit of space for Bright to push forward, but Levia is going to get tagged up quite a bit. They have a nice position going their way. They're trying to pinch them up. Tom is going to fall, and that does mean that Bright takes the 1-star lead. Tom jumps in, is able to pick up the kill, has the follow-up pull onto Ingrid as well, but maybe not ideal when your teammate is right next to you and it's a Piper.
I love how with the whole of T-Drinkers, they're keeping away from that Poco as well, so that if he does get any damage across, he'll give his team an opportunity to heal, and they've made sure to not let that happen in the slightest. And so far, so good. It is 10-6 in favour of T-Drinkers. And look at this, Spen is just doing so much work with the Piper at the moment. Just keep his distance, doing so much damage here, and just, weaving and dodging and just using his mechanics perfectly here, as Livia's just being a little bit aggressive here, just trying to get something to occur, to at least we get some damage done and can then really heal his teammates as he's going forward. But I don't think it's going to happen. It could be a little bit too late as Tom is trying to back away from Livia. You see there, Ingrid is taking down KC, also taking down Tom as well. So they're actually up 11 to 10. Unless on the side of T-Drinkers they can do something about that, as they do have quite a strong lead. It's trying to finish him off. It is 15 to 13 with only 5 seconds left. They seriously need to push up here. They are trying to catch up with their opponents, but will they be able to? No, they will not. And it is Bright who takes for the first game in set 2.
Oh my, Purple Paradise, quite a map to be battling this one out. I am already scared of the tweets that are gonna come from T-Drinkers if they lose this set. It is not really a map you usually see in a competitive setting. It is pretty much just a 1v1 map, but I guess it's interesting to watch for the least, because it is going to come down to those mechanics and to those comps. I feel like the sustain that Bright had was just too hard to deal with. Once they were pinched in that bottom left corner, there was just no way out whatsoever for T-Drinkers. All they could really rely on were those gene pools, and I think Spen had an impeccable performance on that Piper, but once he was cornered up, it was just a lot of pressure. He was getting tagged no matter where he would be. Just not really a viable position for him to be. I'm guessing they will be switching off that Piper unless they go for something radically different and like very long range. I wouldn't be surprised to see them play the same comp as Bright.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult to mention. You said it about the Piper. Yeah, he was trapped in the corner a couple of times and had no way out and couldn't really do, anything to try and recuperate and help his teammates afterwards. It was quite tough. And, Bright, they've shown signs of life finally. It's taken an entire set, but at least they've shown they can make something happen here. But the question is, what can they do if they do, copy the same comp or play the same comp in some kind of mirror match? That's the next question. But we are going straight into game number 2, and already KC has taken down one of the players on Bright.
Yeah, I really like this comp from T-Drinkers Bright. They actually try to beat them at their own game by going for the Piper and going for the Crow that has that anti-heal. But there's not going to be nearly as much healing on the side of T-Drinker this time around. They will have the Gene, but that's about it. Actually, it's the same for them as previous game. What am I saying? But Bright going completely off any sort of healing capabilities. Good snipes from Ingrid, but he needs some more. He needs to be able to close out a kill. Otherwise, T-Drinkers, they will run away with this game as they already have an 11-star lead.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for a better start here as Casey and Tom just trying to push that left side as Spen is trying to clean up if he can, and he's just trying to pin that Piper back if he can into the corner, but it's already moved across. So far you can see two of the players on right are trying to re-heal as Leslie is had to push back once again. He's only on full 80 HP, but look at the side of T-Drinkers. They're looking very healthy at the moment, and you can see again their mechanics, their fundamentals, everything's just working in their favor. It's just going to pull back just slightly just in case because there's only 40 seconds left.
Yeah, 15 stars now on T-Drinkers, and the jump in from Levia. It is going to be the first kill on their end, but the pull onto Leslie will result in another kill, and they keep that 15 stars lead. Bright, they need something going their way. A good snipe from KC, nice beam from Tom are not exactly what they're looking for, as Spen is able to close things out with a bit of a team ace. As 8 seconds are left, there are not nearly enough stars on the playing field on T-Drinkers' names, which means that they take this convincing game home.
31 to 8. That's a difference for you if you can't count. That is absolutely ridiculous stuff with a 23-star deficit. And looking much better from T-Drinkers. They've had to rectify just a couple of things, and this is what I mean by adaptation. That's literally just a clear example of what you can do with, not just rectifying mistakes, not really two of the mistakes, just saw there's more of a comp issue, and then they fixed it, and there you go, job done.
Yeah, pretty convincing stuff here from T-Drinkers. I do think the comp from Bright would have worked better against healers, because having that Crow and the anti-heal could have been quite big in that instance. But yeah, it's not going to be working out against the bees, against the Gene and such quite as well. So T-Drinkers was a bit of a better comp this time. We will see if Bright are able to answer to that in game number 3 of this set. But yeah, let's find out. We're hopping in the Nani. I really like that. The Byron is also a pick I was surprised not to see earlier. And that is going to be some nice early damage lead from Bright. It will be closer to those supers. But also they have the first star secured. Although, oh, we have some back and forth trades. But it is Tea Drinkers to take the lead.
It's a good start from Tea Drinkers here. It's a lot more promising for Bright if they can at least try and push up. But Leslie on that 8-bit is just taking way too much and has to sit back in. It's sort of Ingrid with the Piper is just trying to push a little bit too far forward. I think he was hoping his teammates would probably follow him as they're healing, but sadly that wasn't to be the case as Tom takes out Livia, and Tom also takes down Ingrid in the process, and Leslie is the last one left standing. As you can see, Tom was just trying to do a bit of damage, maybe even clean up if it was possible. Spencer's diving straight in there, and you saw Casey managed to clean up. Tom has to take down Leslie again, and it's all looking a little bit one-sided again here, Teddy, as already Tea Drinkers are up 16-3.
Yeah, a very strong start. KC is gonna be going for his Nani head once again. Nice tanks from Levia, but it's not gonna be quite enough as KC makes it out alive as well. The gadget from Ingrid is not able to find a connection on the low HP KC, and that means that Tea Drinkers, they just widen up that lead furthermore. Bright need a lot of kills and they need them very soon, because otherwise there's already not going to be enough time and not enough stars on the playground for them to stand a chance. That's a good way to kick things off. It is a 10-star difference, still pretty large, but look at this. KC picks up Ingrid with 10 seconds left. I don't know how Bright can come back from this.
Yeah, it looks like it's almost impossible here. Ingrid has taken down Spen in the process, though, but they haven't really got enough time. Only got a couple of seconds here, and Tea Drinkers take the set. That's up 2-0 in the series in commanding fashion.
Yeah, this is gonna be set number 2, going the way of Tea Drinkers as well. They are gonna be up 2-0 now. All they need is one more set to see the playoffs, what all those teams are playing for here in the group stage. Bright, on the other hand, they still have another live. Even if they lose this match, they would still be playing against Unima in the decider match. That would be the next match, but they still need to play a couple more games here against Tea Drinkers. I don't really see how Bright can win this match, to be honest. This set was definitely a bit more of a chance because, you know, it's Purple Paradise, but it just looked really solid from Tea Drinkers. A bit of a slip up in game 1, but afterwards just a super clean set overall from them.
Yeah, it's literally a tall order, and I feel like even if they take one of the games in one of the sets again, it's basically just delaying the inevitable, isn't it? And you can see, you know, stats don't lie. 34 kills in favour of Tea Drinkers to the 11 of Bright, and again with the damage, 91,000 more. That's a huge statement, especially on a map like that where, you know, it's just the fact that, you know, it's basically just straight up using your mechanics and knowing the timings and when you should coordinate and use that synergy to push together. And it just shows, like, you know, what a difference it can make on between these two teams. But for Bright to literally come back in this series, it's going to have to take almost a miracle at this point, and Tea Drinkers are just going to continue to give them no room to breathe in this series going into set number 3.
Yeah, we will need to see a lot more on the side of Bright for our third set of this match if they want to stand a chance against Tea Drinker. I think we are going to have our maps here. Yeah, Bank Shot and Brawl Ball, not a competitive map. Layout seems a bit familiar. You have some hits and bits from some other maps. I think what's most interesting here is going to be the corner of the map, which has some very interesting layouts, some single barrels here and there. I also think that this is one of the maps where you can trick shot the easiest because of the way the walls are set up perpendicular to the goal. You can get some nice bounces in if you get a good angle. So maybe we'll be seeing some of that here as we have the Poco double tank from Bright, Poco tank Max coming through from Tea Drinkers.
Let's see what they can do here as Tea Drinkers have pulled back only slightly as Spen has pushed through and realised that, oh, it looks like Ingrid will be able to slide that in early on, but T-Drinkers, I'm sure they're going to have a response going forward as already. Bright are trying to be very aggressive here, and looks like T-Drinkers had to have a slightly passive setup, but they're taking so much damage, and just going to stop him from at least pushing any more forward with that ball. But it doesn't matter. Spen managed to stop Ingrid in his tracks. Casey also managed to do the same. This is their opportunity now to try and push through if they can. Great stuff from T-Drinkers as Casey managed to get that last kill on Leslie and has tied things up.
1-1 here. The next goal will give that game away. KC actually, he's just gonna be running away with this one. Nice phase shifter to get the angle on the goal and close things out here. It is gonna be match point coming up in favor of T-Drinkers. All they need is one more win, and they'll be going straight to the international finals, the international playoffs. Bright, they need the full-on reverse sweep here to stay in these series, and it's not looking very bright on their side.
No, not at all. What can you say? That last goal was just literally just done in style. You can tell that maybe that first goal from Bright was a bit of a mistake on T-Drinkers' part. You saw them pushing in, they're just relying on their, obviously their tank to pushing forward, which is perfectly fine, understandable. They let that in, but you know, what a comeback and what an answer to, you know, basically respond to how that first goal went, and literally must have come back nicely. So we're going to go straight back in again to see what can happen. Spen has switched from the Dowel to the Dynamite anyway, and we'll see if that will make any difference to their plans.
The Dynamite coming in here from Spen. It's not going to have an easy time against those Stanks, although they do tend to be a bit of a bullet magnet sometimes. KC falls. This is going to be the goal coming in from Bright, as a bit of trolling never hurts. We have Tom on the Shelly as well, struggling a bit to find some value with all of that just yet. Frank sure is a tank, but it's not always going to be the easiest against a Shelly either with that range. It is a push once again here from Bright. They should be able to just tank it in. Yeah, I'm not so sure why Livia was waiting, because behind a wall, that's not the ideal place for a Dynamite, but it is going to be a game for Bright. Once again, I wouldn't consider this as like them playing extremely well. It was a full-on troll comp coming in from T-Drinkers. So, you know, Bright fans, don't get your hopes up just yet, because this was maybe not representative of what this match would look like if they were playing seriously.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. When we saw the Shelly and the Dynamite, we were just like, yeah, okay, this is just going to be, not going to be as one-sided, but at the same time, is this going to take us to a game 3 in this set? And then T-Drinkers will most probably take it. But nice little try from T-Drinkers anyway to use a comp which is never obviously going to use for the obvious reasons. But we'll have to see what happens in game number 3. T-Drinkers should take this, obviously. They should take this 3-0 in the series going into game number 3. But I'm not going to say anything because I don't even know what comp they're going to use. I'm surely they'll go back to a normal comp after this, Teddy.
Yeah, I think so too. They probably just want to close things off, be done with their day. They got some other matches planned for today, so you know, it's fine. They can just kind of have some fun around. They're paid for it anyways, right? So might as well have some more fun doing it. Livia should be able to pinch off Tom. Tom trying to get the ball away, actually. Well, look at this. That's gonna be the shot from Spen. That's a tough angle to score from, but he makes it work anyways. And T-Drinkers up 1-0, another goal, and they are done with this match. They are done with the group stage.
There certainly will be indeed. Like you said, just one more will make it happen so they can take the entire series, but White's already pulling back, and it looks like they're going to push forward and see if they can just try and recover it in the process. Tom is just waiting for Spen so they can now push up onto them. Just got to be careful of Ingrid, of course, with his HP. But Spen now's going to just roll along, just push straight to that right side, and done a lot of damage to Livia here, but now actually managed to pull back anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Tom is just trying to defend, just trying to keep the ball away from them so they can at least buy some time for Spen to respawn.
Yeah, nice stun. That's going to be the follow-up goal. It's all tied up, and things are looking a bit better for Bright. We'll see how they're able to make this one work with a minute and 10 seconds left. Very good bubble there from KC, finding a ton of value, but he's taking a lot of damage as well. They're able to deal with Livia. I'm Ingrid picks up KC, and it's a 2-on-2. Well, Daryl counters Frank, and as you can see, it's just going to be dashing straight into his face, taking him down, and things are looking pretty good for Tea Drinkers. Levia taking a lot of damage from afar. The bubble is not gonna be helping his cause as Tom takes him down. Ingrid is able to get the ball away. That is gonna save them from the goal right now, but will it save them in a couple of seconds here as Tea Drinkers is able to start a bit of a push. They have the spawn locked down. The super from Ingrid connects onto Spen. Spen loses control of the ball. And this is a pretty good defense from Bright, but not going to be quite enough as Tea Drinkers close things out. 3-0 in sets. We had some good stuff from Bright here and there, but it wasn't enough to take down the almighty Tea Drinkers as they secure their spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, good attempts from Bright anyway, but Tea Drinkers, we said it before, heavy favourites, and they were clearly, one of the top teams we expected to go through, not only in dominant fashion, but just clearly in comparison to what we know about these teams in terms of knowledge. But, Bright put on, a decent performance. We know Tea Drinkers were kind of trolling in game number 2 a couple of times then and in the past. But, like you said, they're just having a giggle, really, aren't they? Just playing it for banter, just to, slide their way into the international finals quite comfortably. So we will be seeing Tea Drinkers in the international finals, as they have clearly won their group in Group H. And we will be going very shortly to the decider match between Bright and Unima Gaming. And this one should be a much closer affair in comparison to what we've seen, because it's basically been the Tea Drinkers show over the last hour and a bit. But let's be honest, it's not really too much of a surprise going forward. And you can see there, Tea Drinkers managed to pick up 3 more kills. I wouldn't really pay attention to the stats too much because, of course, in game number 2, it was a little bit different from what we'd normally see, but it's still a lot more of a dominating performance. But this next game should be pretty sweet. As you know, we do have that decider match between the 2 teams I've just mentioned, and this will be our first decider match of the week, really, just in general, because of course we've been doing the last 8 days of groups. We do have the decider matches Thursday and Friday, but we're going to start with the first decider match here soon.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting for sure, because it's 2 teams that lost pretty badly to Tea Drinkers. Not because they're bad teams, but just because Tea Drinkers is that good. So they will have a bit of a challenge here coming up in front of them, as maybe those teams are going to be closer to each other's level and stand a bit of a better chance of winning their matches. I'm expecting some closer series for sure, especially now that elimination is on the map. It's going to be much more intense, because it's very drastic, the difference between winning and losing that elimination, that decider match, because either you go home empty-handed, either you go to the playoffs. It just, such a night and day difference between the 2 results.
Absolutely, we'll just have to see what they can do here, and it's nice to see one of the first decider matches a little bit early. It's it's like I said, it's like Christmas present come early here, as we get to see the first one rather than watching this match on the Friday, because we do have decider matches come up on tomorrow and Friday. This one was originally planned, I think, for the Friday, but like I said, we get to see it a little bit earlier to decide who's going to be going through into the next stage. So it's going to be quite exciting stuff. It's very hard to kind of dictate not just the pace of the game, but in terms of prediction on what is going to happen, because these 2 pretty much played the same against Tea Drinkers. It was, even though it's very one-sided to Tea Drinkers are such a high skill ceiling. We couldn't really tell exactly who could be better and who could not be better. If there was a lot more major mistakes from one team, then maybe we could make a slight decision on predictability and what could happen in the series. But it's going to be very tough, as you can see from the match stats overall. Just a huge amount of damage from Tea Drinkers, 260,000 more, and the kills just basically to speak for itself here, Teddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Very one-sided affair. The funny number amount of kills for Tea Drinkers as well. I think that's just a nice way to wrap this up. Obviously, we still have our decider match to come, the first decider match here for Gamestars. So super excited about that one. all things considered, if you remove some of the shenanigans we saw in this match, you know, some troll comms, some purple paradise action, which is really hard to just you know, truly reflect the skill from Bright. I do have to say that I feel like Unima overall played slightly better in their match against Tea Drinkers, but it's honestly completely up for grabs here. Bright had some good moments as well, and I'm expecting a heated series to separate those two teams.
I hope so, indeed. I hope it will be a closer series as well. I'm sure it will be to a certain extent. It's just a matter of like seeing again, you know, seeing that first couple of sets to dictate what's going to possibly happen throughout the series. But I hope it is going to be a close affair. I hope it's going to be much closer from what we've seen in the first two series. And for anyone who's just joined us, we will be going into the decider match very shortly. And as you can see, the Tea Drinkers won both their sets in the opener match and the winners match 3-0. Our Sky, the team from Jordan, sadly could not make it. And you can see why, as Bright will get a default win to winners match. They'll be playing in a decider. And Unima Gaming come up from the elimination bracket to also come up in the decider, just due to Our Sky not being involved in either of those two matches. So Tea Drinkers are already through into the international finals, and this decider match will decide who will be going through into the next stage.
All right, we have our decider match ahead of us. This is gonna be heated as both teams are in a do or die scenario. They are either going home empty-handed or they secure their spot in the playoffs. Once again, I said it earlier, but it is quite a drastic difference between going home with nothing and going to the international playoffs.
It certainly is indeed. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's exactly going to happen between both these teams. And, you know, when we go to the bans very shortly, that's one thing I'm definitely going to be curious about, because they both banned Bell. And funny enough, I'm not sure that is exactly the same situation which has occurred, but it's not too much of a surprise there. And, you know, well, I did just mention it just beforehand, so it's not like I'm, you know, bad at predicting in any way, shape or form. We're just literally going off, you know, what they wanted to do. But one of the main things which is proving it is the fact that it's just obviously a brawler which they're not comfortable at playing against. It's nothing to do with counter picks or, you know, knowledge of their opponents. They're both just simply not comfortable against playing against that brawler.
Yeah, I really agree. I think Bell is, you know, a very generic ban. It is the go-to ban at the moment. It was Stu for a bit. It did really change now that Bell released, especially since Stu got nerfed a bit as well. So, you know, most teams, they are going to be banning Bell or expecting that their opponents will, so they go for something different with that in mind. Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting one, because I feel like we haven't really been able to see much of the potential from those two teams, because Tea Drinkers was just easily able to shut them down whenever they would attempt pretty much anything. But here are our maps. Death Camp Trap is going to be our first map of the match. In Gem Grab Bot Riot for Siege, Triumvirate for Hot Zone, Safe Zone is gonna be our heist set, and then for the fifth, if it comes down to it, Quick Skip in Bounty. I think this match could go all the way through, Lethal.
Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I think it's going to be at least a 3-1 or 3-2 from either team, and they're going to be happy not to play against Tea Drinkers again, seeing Siege is set number 2. But you're right, this should be a great match to cover. And the only thing is, though, both these teams will not want to go to set number 5, which will be on Bounty. It's not something either team would be comfortable with. I'd probably say, you know, for that last set, maybe decide of, just trying to think for the top of my head, I think it was Bright who seemed pretty good in that first game in the set against Tea Drinkers with Bounty. But then again, it just went all pear-shaped and literally just went on the opposite end of the spectrum, got absolutely smashed in the next 2 games. I think that was more of a comp change rather than, you know, adaptation. But we'll have to see, though. Like we said before, you know, the first few sets will be the indicator, but it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, these two teams do take it to a set 4-5. But Unima, I'd probably say, look a bit more promising, but, you know, it could just be me reading things a little bit too deep, because Tea Drinkers didn't really give us much of a chance to try and decide exactly, you know, how good some of these two teams can actually be against each other.
Yeah, I completely agree with your point. I agree as well that to me, Unima looked a bit better too, just because there was a bit less fancy stuff. We didn't have any Purple Paradise action, which is just, you can't really make too much out of it. And
Yeah.
also, you know, no troll comps whatsoever, because if you remove Purple Paradise, if you remove the troll comps, it was very, very one-sided for Tea Drinkers versus Bright. Unima did give them a run for their money in the Hot Zone set. It was very close in all 3 games. They won one of them as well. So that's what I'm going to be looking at when I say that I feel like Unima is overall maybe the slightly better team. But as you rightly said, we haven't seen a lot of those teams. We only saw them getting demolished. We haven't seen them really dominating themselves. We haven't really seen them pop off just yet. And that's what they're going to be needing in this match. If they want to go all the way to the international playoffs, they definitely need to perform in this matchup now, as we are going to be heading towards our decider matchup.
Yeah, this is the problem you see, you know, when you got two like mid-tier teams playing against, you know, such a high-level tier 1 team, you know, they're both going to be in the exact same circumstances. You know, if they both get dominated, we're not going to be able to pick out exactly what major mistakes in particular they have to rectify, because there's just too many. There's at least like 15, 20 different weaknesses. That's why I said to you, Teddy, you know, I could get you to explain to me exactly, like, you know, what little things they should be changing. It's going to be almost everything. I don't want to leave you here till midnight tonight to try and tell me exactly, you know, what these teams should have at least corrected like midway through, because there's so many. They've probably got a shopping list of exactly what needs to be done going forward. And that's why I also said earlier, but yeah, sure, they can try and fix some of these mistakes here and there, but they won't be able to rectify everything in just a few weeks leading up to the international final. So they just need to try and do what they can so they can play better against other, you know, tier 2, tier 3 teams, just so they can get a little bit further in the international finals. That's if, depending on which one of these teams make it.
Yeah, you make a very good point. You can adapt only so much on the fly as well in your match when you are getting destroyed by a top tier team. They will have a bit more time before the playoffs where they can properly analyze those VODs, look at what they did right, what they did wrong. And for the losing team of this match, they might have a couple of months to get that sorted out. So, you know, I always tend to say it. I think for a lot of teams competing, especially when you qualify through some open qualifiers, the most important for you is not winning prize pool. It's not getting through like insane amounts of clouds. It's learning. It is that learning process that is gonna make you reach those higher levels. You know, Tea Drinkers, they didn't start off being the best players in the region. They started off like a regular team competing, learning, and that's why they are so good now, because they've been learning and applying everything they get to understand after months and months, even years of practice. It's normal that you can't expect that level of play from Bright and Unima, but they are going to be battling it out now anyways, as they are fighting for a spot in the playoffs.
Not really too much difference in terms of comps. You see Angel going with the Stu and Ingrid going with the Sandy. Apart from that, both teams are going with the Barley and the 8-bit, but already Leslie got another kill to his name as he's trying to hold that mid control. Olivier's realised that he needs to back away just a little bit, but at the same time just trying to make sure he can use the range of Barley to keep the distance of Unima Gaming. But see there, Leslie again keeping that mid control, trying to collect those gems. Still 5-1 in favour of Bright, and Ingrid's just trying to cause a little bit of havoc here. But Angel did try to push in, but didn't really make too much difference now. And already Bright do have 8 gems.
Yeah, look at that. He is going to be falling with those gems. Livia is able to pick them up, but as a Barley is quite squishy, he's going to fall. The TP from Mr. Leslie will be able to get back to those gems in time. It is almost all tied up, but Leslie is willing to go a bit more aggressive on this one. Has a new turret available, but he has no more gadgets, so no more TPs back to his damage booster. He's gonna have to play it very carefully, as I think Raze has many more gadgets to play, at least 1, potentially even 2 or 3, so that's something to take into account into this matches. Sure, gem wise it is even, but a lot more gadgets were popped by Bright.
You can see now Olivia just trying to keep the distance a little bit more, but Angel's going straight in with that Stu, managed to get that first kill. Trying to survive here, just trying to keep his distance, just trying to recover, but Leslie's not giving him that opportunity at all here, and it's now 9-8. The fight for mid-control is absolutely huge now for Bright, as they managed to get what they needed, and now it's just a matter of who they can keep back, as already Angel's pushing straight in to try and finish off Ingrid if he can. He's left on 56 HP, and this will be his opportunity to try and pull back if he can. You can see Bright aren't too happy about that at all. It's going to be a 2v3 now for these next 7 seconds. There's absolutely no way they'll be able to come back from this or even try and recover for that matter. So Unima Gaming managed to be able to take that towards right at the very end, taking down Ingrid. And that was quite close until the very end. But Unima Gaming showing that experience from not just playing in the Nationals, but just overall. So good start from them.
Yeah, I think Bright played this one pretty well as well. I think that what went wrong is that their 8-bit decided to go very aggressive early on and pop those gadgets whenever suited him. It's not like it was in positions where he had to pop the gadget, to be fair, so it wasn't like he was wasting them. But you know, to a certain extent, when you put yourself in a position where you need to use it to get out alive, whether it's because you need to pick up some more gems or you want to overextend a bit more, get a nicer angle, whatever not, it's very sweet. But those gadgets, you only have 3 of them, and once you have 3 popped after like 45 seconds into that game, the gem count is tied up. Your opponents have like almost all of their gadgets available. Sure, you had that early lead, you had that good start, but it is going to be biting you. And that's exactly what happened there, actually, because he was falling back as an 8-bit. He was carrying 9 gems. He had a long way to run, and 8-bit is just not very fast of a brawler. That TP is so valuable, and him not having it available in that crucial time cost him his life, cost him the game as well. So yeah, you know, gadget management is something to take into account in those games, and I feel like Bright, maybe they played a bit better overall mechanically and strategically, but just those small mistakes here end up costing them the game, because when you're in 8-bit, you're trapped, you have nowhere to go, and you don't have a gadget, it's just going to be over.
That's right, indeed. Bright, you know, they do struggle a little bit in terms of mindset and mentality, and it's time for them to reset, because if they know, like, mechanically they are the better team, they know that they cannot let themselves, you know, get too, you know, angry or annoyed from previous matchups. You know, this was just the first game, the first set. They definitely have, you know, the capability to try and push on forward, and Ingrid's already pushed up so far to try and take down Reliable there, trying to overextend quite quickly. He's left those 3 gems on the left side, which I'm sure one of them is going to be picking up shortly. And Livia and Leslie just trying to keep that mid-control until Ingrid comes back, which he has done. And Ray's taken a lot of damage here. Reliable managed to be taking down Livia there. Reliable still on that right side, just trying to trap Ingrid if he can. But Ingrid's been so aggressive here, Teddy.
Yeah, the stew was definitely the right move here for Bright, just able to cover so much ground, rotate between enemy players, and take them down consistently as well. He's been playing it very well. The only problem is going to be now that he's carrying 5 gems, he can't really go that aggressively anymore, and it was the only thing that was going the way of Bright, so they need to really adapt now, because, you know, they don't have any map control on that left-hand side. Look how far off pushed Raze is. He's just in such an aggressive position, and he can just afford to do it. There we have a nice pickup from Bright. They're able to find another kill. Raze does take down Ingrid. The gems on Livia are going to be a bit better because he wants to stay safe behind those walls anyways. But yeah, it's a bit of a chaotic game. It's very messy. We have a lot of stuff going on and a lot of gems on every single player. So yeah, it's not very well structured here for either teams.
Absolutely not, but it's not too chaotic. It was a bit of a chaotic mess earlier on without too much structure, but you know, I think this is how Bright like to play this as well, and Unima Gaming aren't really too fast. They can still create a bit of structure if they see fit. But you see Ray was so desperately wanting to push up and all the rest of his teammates to push up as well, but didn't come in time as Ray is still sitting there. Ingrid definitely wants to try and take him down, but Ray's the one who actually finishes him up. May have been a wrong move there, wrong push, as now they finally got 10 gems again on the side of Unima, and now all of Bright are now pushing up as quickly and possible as they can, but not in taking huge amount of damage in the process. Angel did take down Ingrid in the end, Reliable taking down Livia, and now Ray finished up Leslie right at the very end, and that is going to be another game for Unima.
Yeah, man, Unima looking much better in this one once again. I do want to point out that Bright had some good stuff, especially with the stew that just created so much space. But once again, the problem was that once he had those gems, he had to really fall back, played super safe, and that just gave away so much map control to Unima. Because as a stew, you want to be in your opponent's face. You want to be constantly dashing into them, away from them, and getting so much control, covering so much ground. And they were just not able to do that anymore because he was carrying those very valuable gems, 5 it was as well. So you can't just go into his opponent's face, because if he gets taken out, it's pretty much a countdown already secured for his opponents. And I think that change of pace was what caused that downfall for Bright, as Unima take them down in set 1.
I feel like Unima couldn't really control the pace at the start of that game. Again, it seems like Bright liked to cause as much chaos and mayhem, or make the game overall just as chaotic as possible, because that's more towards their style. It's because they haven't really got too many strategies. They just like to play off their mechanics and fundamentals, which is completely understandable. But, you know, when you want to hit or reach a higher tier in terms of team status, that's when you need to start, structuring your team a lot more. But you saw there from Unima Game, it took a little bit of time for them to kind of, take control. But after a while, you see that towards the end of both games, they were very composed and were able to, take the time and try and realize exactly what they need to do towards each game. And you see where the kills basically shows. It didn't really feel like it, in all fairness, but Unima did get 11 more kills in their favor, with nearly 70,000 more damage, about 69,000 more damage. And, that's good stuff from Unima. It's weird. It didn't feel like Bright only got 12 kills. I think it's because of how much they they made such a fast-paced game during that first set. But Unima game managed to control it in the end nicely, and we'll be going to Siege on Bot Riot coming up next, Teddy.
Yeah, I really like Bot Riot. It is probably my favorite non-competitive map that has never been in the competitive map pool, so I'm always curious to see how the meta develops over here. Reliable is going to be the one to pick up the first bolt on the left-hand side. Levia will find number 2, and that should be tying things up early on. But look at this, we will have the bolt lead for Bright, looking to secure that siege bot, and actually not going to get contested on it. Nice pull from Leslie. Oh, really lovely dash from Raze to tank an extra shot for Angel. Tends to keep him alive. He's dodging very well as well. Picks up Ingrid too. That was very clean from Unima to recover from that situation. They do have to deal with that defense. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. You don't really care too much if you get a bit of early damage on your Ike. It's all about that retake, all about recovering from that position and retaking middle control.
As you can see, you're going to still have those 3 bolts from earlier on after that first siege bot. The next siege will be in the next 10 seconds though, and Bright have actually overtaken Unima in terms of the bolt count, but they have tied things up here again, as all 3 members of Bright are coordinating really well on that left side. And it looks like there will be a level 5 siege bot for Bright coming through, and we'll have to see how well Unima can try and defend this, as Leslie's just using that bot as a shield for now, just to try and push it up and try and be a little bit of a nuisance here, as Angel just been caught off guard only slightly here, and will be doing a bit more damage compared to before. Not a huge amount, but at least down to 46, which means Unima needs a really good push on this next siege bot. That's if they even get it at this point.
Yeah, Levia might be falling to Angel. Oh, they trade each other out, actually. Reliable does fall to Ingrid. This could be the nail in the coffin for Unima in this game here, as Bright surely will be getting that third and final siege bot. Good stuff from Bright. I do feel like they had a much better comp overall. I like the Surge, but when Stu is available, I don't really see why you would go for Surge instead of Stu. On the side of Unima as well, I don't know. I feel like the Max was okay, but it just didn't find any value anywhere. So I kind of feel like they could switch that off. I think the comp from Bright was better. The Jew and the Stu is already so strong. The Max and Jean combination is so good as well. And that just means that they were able to absolutely pump off in this game and get every single siege bot.
Absolutely. No, they did a fantastic job. Again, night and day compared to what we saw in that first set. Maybe it was the game mode which made the difference, or maybe they were just a bit frustrated from that last set and said, right, come on, boys, it's time to sort our lives out and try and get something going here. And you can see they're trying to throw him off as well. They're trying to, do what they can just to annoy them a little bit here and there. And then today, obviously, Bright are trying to say, well, we are the better team and we're just going to prove it after this next set. But you said about the comps as well. We have to see if on the side of Unima, if they can make any comp change to make it be a little bit more successful. And it's definitely a possibility though, we've only seen for the first game in this set, and I'm sure Unima are one of those teams who can actually adapt a lot better in comparison.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Unima has been great at reacting throughout the day. We'll see if it's still going to be the case here, as Bot Riot is going to be up next once again for our second game of Siege. Yeah, I feel like they have some solid chances to come back if they can adapt a bit comp-wise. It should be all right. Same stuff from Bright. Unima are going to be copy-pasting that as well. So the mirror matchup is in front of us. Nice skill there early on from Raze onto Ingrid. The dash in from Angel wins his lane against Levia with the help from Raze. Raze has been popping off on that Jean, able to create so much space for his team. And sure, he doesn't have the pool available just yet, picks it up now, but this first siege bot is going to be a level 4 siege bot. Pretty rare to see those level 4 siege bots for bot number 1.
Yeah, the only time we've actually seen it is from T-Drinkers earlier on. I think we saw at least one level 4 at the start. I can't actually remember from the top of my head, but good defense here, as you can see from Bright. It's only taken a little bit of damage. It only took 8%, but it is early days. It is the first siege bot, like you said earlier on. Even the 4-bot one, that's still not too bad. And the fight is still going on as Angel takes out Ingrid in the end, and Leslie's just trying to back away if he can, but Angel managed to finish him off as he was trying to pull back again. Levia again just trying to push up, trying to help Ingrid. I don't think it's going to help too much though. Maybe caught in a trap here, and already Unima on 6 bolts now, 7, maybe even 8 leading up to this next siege bot. It will be level 8 siege bot now for Unima to push up, and now Bright on the back foot and on the defense once again.
Yeah, I think that Leslie pulling the siege bot earlier was a bit of a rookie mistake. It can feel, very strong to get that very clean defense, but that does mean that he loses his super for the retake. And if you look at the result of it, only 1 bolt was secured in that whole preparation phase for Bright. So not exactly ideal. We have a bit of a trade on the left-hand side. Good gadget from Reliable. That means that he's able to bank that Bold, and Unima are looking very good to get the third and final siege bot here. They will certainly do just that. It means that they pick up this game because they don't need to do any additional damage to secure the win. It's going to be a level 9 siege mob coming up on their side, and I think that Leslie deciding to go for the pull on the siege bot, like I just don't get it, man. I feel like it's saving them like 10% damage on their Ike. Instead, if he went for a pull on a player, that could be game-changing, as it would open things up and help getting that retake done properly, because they got no luck whatsoever in that retake.
They certainly didn't indeed. Unima making a huge impact compared to what we saw in game number 1 of this second set. And again, adaptations is working well for them. And that was a mirror matchup as well. There wasn't anything to do with, a bad comp or, getting countered or anything like that. That was just pure skill from that team. They're coordinating so well. And you saw a lot of times Bright, what's the best way to put it? They sometimes coordinated the odd time here and there, but they did it at the wrong times. Like, if one of your teammates is that weak and, they're finding it someone who's got twice your health and you're going to push him with about half, there is absolutely no need for it. Sometimes you just have to let sacrifices happen, pull back, and then go together again afterwards. It's better to waste, maybe about 5 seconds rather than 15, 20, because it counts so much collecting those bolts towards the end of the game.
Yeah, in Brawl Stars, a lot of game modes rely a lot on decisions. If you look at Siege, if you look at Heist, there's a lot of moments where you just need to think as a team and agree on what you're going to be doing next. If you want to go for, retake on one lane, on multiple lanes, or like on all lanes at the same time. If you want to be using your supers to defend or for the retake, if you want to sacrifice some more damage on your Ike versus some damage on yourself if you're tanking it, because if you're tanking the siege bot, that does mean that you're going to be lower HP and it will slow down the retake as well. So there's so many of those small decisions you need to take, and I feel like on the side of Bright it was kind of all over the place. It was like one dude was like down to go for a quick retake, the other one would use his pull on the siege bot, the next one would die to the siege bot, and then it was like, yeah, it doesn't really work, you know what I mean, because it's not that clean of a defense. You end up having one of your players pushed up alone, the other one that's low HP and one that is dead. That's not exactly an ideal scenario for a retake.
Yeah, we're going to have a mirror match once again with the same comps, and we're going to see if Bright have made any improvements compared to that last game, because yeah, it was literally just ridiculous compared to what we just saw. Reliable Master takes out Leslie in the end, and there was another kill also for Bright on the other side. But look at this, so already, they've got to try and defend against a level 3 bot. Not level 4 like the last game anyway, but great way to start things off for Unima Gaming, just having that mid control, just making sure they keep their distance, abuse that range, coordinate well. They've done everything they needed to in order to try and make matters worse for Bright. So only taking 13%, pretty standard from what we normally see from the first siege bot. Good defense there from Bright, but what can Bright do? Look at the amount of damage they've already taken. Ingrid is literally just trying to survive here. Can't get away, sadly for him. And now Leslie is all on his own. He needs to survive and wait for his next two teammates. If he doesn't survive here, then it's going to be another 3v2 for Unima Gaming, as he's left on 252 HP. Just manages to survive, but he won't be able to help out as much because of the 3v1 he was taking throughout that last 15 seconds.
Yeah, that was finally a good retake on the side of Bright. The first one pretty much we've ever seen from them. They will have a nice 6-bolt lead for the final siege bot. Now it's going to be the moment where they need to make a good decision. This defense, sure, the damage is nice, but they need to focus on the retake. And look, that's what they're doing. Levia is moving on to the left-hand side. We have Ingrid and Leslie ready to rally up as well. And that's how you should play it. You have a 6-bolt lead. You want to make sure you secure at least one lane so you get that final siege bot. You don't need a lot of bolts, but every bolt is going to be counting double or triple. But look at this. It's falling apart, the team wipe. And Unima Gaming, they should be able to tie up that bolt count unless you have a good pull from Levia. He's not able to connect it, and that mistake is going to cost them this set, as Unima Gaming get the level 8 siege bot, and somehow Bright did not pick up a single bolt here. One bolt or two would have made the difference in that final preparation phase, but they were not able to make it happen. And Unima Gaming, they are 2-0 in sets now.
Yeah, they were literally, I think they had, what, a 6-bolt lead, 5-bolt lead at one stage, like towards the end of that. They had to just try and keep map control. But again, just the side of Unima just suffocating their opponents. I think they feel like it's going to be a replica of that last game, just due to the fact that the comp's the same. They've got not really any kind of advantage. And there was a lot of times where you see Bright were just a bit too overzealous and overextending way too much. Again, losing the numbers game every single time. It was a bit annoying at times. You could see that they were trying to pull back, but by then it was just too little too late, with the speed and the distance they were from their opponents after each mana. And you could see the timing of Unima as well. They know that they can take the time with their last opponent, because the longer it takes to kill them, the better, because by the time the two players on Bright push up, they've then got to wait for their third teammate again for another additional 10 seconds, and it's just more time wasted and more time which is they're going to need in order to try and collect those bolts.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like Unima played this one really well. They were much better coordinated. They were much better at control, whether it was keeping it or taking it, and that made such a huge difference for this set. They don't have a whole lot more damage, but they just took the fights that really mattered, and they won all of those. Bright, I don't know, I feel like mechanically we've seen some really good stuff on their end, but teamwork wise and decision wise, it wasn't really ideal, was it? We saw them very often very spread out, going for the wrong calls. Like when you have a 6-bolt lead, You know, you should be able, especially when you have something like a G and a Max and a Stu that are amazing brawlers at retakes. You should be able to at least retake one lane with 3 players and pick up 1 or 2 bolts to get that final siege bot. I feel like it wasn't Unima that really clutched up in that position. It was more Bright that really choked and wasn't able to get too much done in any retake scenario. And in Siege, sure, you can, be confident that you will get every siege bot and then you don't need any retakes, but more often than not there will be some retake scenarios, and if you're not able to win a single one of those, yeah, you're just not going to be winning siege, are you?
Absolutely not. No. And what makes matters even worse is we are going to set through, which is going to be Hot Zone on Trium, and you saw Unima played pretty decently against Tea Drinkers earlier on in one of the Hot Zone maps. Obviously, of course, it wasn't the same map, but again, the mode they seem to be pretty strong on. But it might have been map dependent. We'll find out as we go into set number 3 very shortly. But this is, again, another problem why, it's good, like, having such a strong initiative and an individual ability and skill going into Brawl Stars. But the problem is, like, if you don't have certain strats to counter certain things, then this is what's going to happen, because they know that you won't be able to adapt, you won't be able to change anything, you can't do anything on the fly, and you're pretty much stuffed here, Teddy.
Yeah, Triumvirate coming up next. Definitely an interesting map, a 3-zone hot zone map as well. It's quite a chaotic one, to be honest, because it's not very easy to help your teammates out on their lanes, so you end up very often having those 1v1s on every side of the map. Sometimes some teams will decide to focus more effort on 1 or 2 zones at the same time, but it seems like it is the 1v1 scenario here. I feel like that could not be the worst for Bright, to be honest, because they were shining mechanically, not really through their teamwork, but it is gonna be Unima Gaming to win both the middle and top zone, and that's gonna be a lot of early control, a lot of early percentages already captured on their side. Leslie is losing that battle against Reliable, will manage to take control with it. Reliable able to dodge those shots. Leslie is low HP, and that's going to be Unima Gaming once again with a lot of control. Levia was an important kill, survives with 200 HP, but Reliable is able to help out on the top side. Ingrid is going to burn to his death. They trade each other out. Yeah, it's gonna get complicated on this map. Once one zone is captured, you can focus a lot more efforts on the other side, and because it's typically 1v1s, it just becomes 2v1s, and you have that constant man advantage. Look at that, only one more zone to be captured, I think, for Unima. Maybe a couple of percentages on the top. I don't even think so. Yeah, they got 2 zones already. They just need to focus on the bottom side. I'm not even too sure where they are defending at this point. They have a pretty sizable lead. They should just focus on that bottom zone and make sure they just close out this game, get to match point, and stay comfortable, because right now the only zone that matters, they only have 1 player in there. I don't think I agree with their decision.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either. Like, they're trying to propel themselves to that top one, but Ray is just sitting there waiting every single time, and he's so aware. His awareness is so good for surprise attacks or anything like that. And Leslie still trying to push him back. Reliable's won the last couple 1v1s against Leslie in those fights, but as I say that, Leslie actually comes out on top in their next engagement, as Leslie is just trying to push up to that top one just to be a bit of a nuisance there. Still on 80% compared to the 72%. It's looking very close here. It's Bright is slowly catching up ever so surely, and there's still plenty of time for them to try and come back in this. It's Leslie holding that middle zone, and Levy is just trying to see what he can do just to continue to keep Unima back here, as Angel is on that right side trying to contest that bottom zone, which I think might have been able to. Yes, he does, and that's 2 members down now for the side of Bright, and it's not looking too good here for Bright, as now Unima is getting some of these zones back.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very confused with what Unima is doing, to be completely honest with you. They're making this so close and so dangerous for them. They have the lead. They started off really well, but finally now they're focusing on that bottom zone, but it's a bit late for that. They should still be able to close this one out, but I do feel like they could have played this one much better. Even then, they will get the win, don't get me wrong. It is going to be match point for Unima Gaming coming up, but once you have 2 zones captured, I don't understand with a 30% lead in capture time. I don't understand why they keep defending, because defending is nice, it's easier. The problem is you have your sides captured. When your opponents attack you, even if you win, they might get 5, 6, 7% off for their side because they're fighting in a zone that they have not captured yet. When you decide to defend that, it does mean that you're not getting any more percentages because your opponents have the advantage from defending on the bottom side, the one zone where you need. They have one player there that was consistently winning. And I don't understand why they didn't just say, like, okay, guys, let's focus up. There are jump pads that can send us straight into that bottom zone, focus everything over there, and just close it out. It got so close at some point. It was like a 5% difference where they were like dominating through the game and they just let things slip because of some decision mistakes and some teamwork issues on the side of Unima. They were still able to close it out, don't get me wrong. They played it really good in the start. They were able to consistently win those 1v1s, but it could have gotten a bit scary if they were facing a better team. If they were facing a tea drinker level team again, they would have punished them for that mistake 10 times out of 10. They would have lost that match just because they took one wrong decision.
And not only that, with regards to the bottom zone, like even if you don't fully capture it, even if you're just down there and just showing some presence and putting the pressure on, it's going to force them to have to focus on that bottom zone straight away on the respawn, and it's going to waste so much time for them to even push you off. And you don't have to, obviously you need to try and stay alive in that situation to stay out of range, but just having yourself there with just a presence, you waste over 5-10 seconds, where normally, like you said, if they're covering those just 2 zones only, you're giving them their side of the map control, with ease, like not even with ease, basically uncontested. So you made some very good points in terms of them needing to try and put a bit more pressure on that bottom zone. But we're going to see if they can take the series now. This could potentially be the last game of the night, depending on if Unima can actually take this next game in the third set. As if they do actually lose this game and then Bright win again, then that means the series will be tied up 2-1 and we'll go into set number 4. But Unima, though, still a not bad start so far. Livia and Leslie are on that left side. Angel just trying to stay alive in that middle zone, just trying to keep Leslie away. Livia's going to catapult upwards towards the top zone to see if he can put any pressure on, but it's not really the case as Angel does take him down.
Yeah, I feel like some of the decisions still are not exactly amazing. I don't understand why they're going for 1v1s on the bottom side there, Unima. I mean, it was a 2v1 here. Actually, they're going to win it because Levia decides to jump away and let his teammate die. So, fair enough. That is going to be a lot of control for Unima. They have captured the center zone. I think they've captured most of the top zone as well. Bottom zone is on their way there. 82% captured already. Yup. They only need 15 more. It's all in the bottom zone. That's where they should assess all of their resources. And Levia, not entirely sure. Oh, gets to pull onto Angel. That's not even going to be resulting as in a kill as reliable as able to take him out before that. And this should be it. Unima Gaming taking out Bright. Bright not able to make it out of the group stage successfully. They will be going home empty-handed, which means that Unima Gaming will be our second team for Group H to make it all the way to the international playoffs. Congratulations.
Sadly for us and the viewers at home, we're not going to see a 5-set series. It is going to be a clean sweep. I mentioned it before that I thought it was going to be like a 3-1 or 3-2 on the side of Unima. Like, I know they've got more experience under their belt in terms of like the tournament scene, but also the competitive scene, shall we say. But I didn't think it was going to be this much. But Bright did put up a better fight than what we thought. We thought it was going to keep it close. They took the odd game here and there, but again, we kind of felt like they're just delaying the inevitable. Like, if it was like a best of one in each set, okay, it could have been a little bit different. But with the adaptation of Unima Gaming and what they want to do and try and fix, then yeah, it's understandable that, the more games you play, eventually I feel like Unima Gaming were the ones who are going to come out on top, but that's purely based on experience and the skill level between both these teams. As you can see here, 35,000 more damage for Unima, and of course 13 more kills on their side.
Yeah, it was pretty one-sided. The first game of Hot Zone, I think I expressed my frustration already when it comes down to that bottom zone.
You definitely did. You definitely did. That was definitely an essay.
Well, I think a lot of people, they also are looking to learn throughout those kind of events, whether they're playing or even watching at home. That's the great thing about esports, is that it can be hella entertaining, while being educative and teaching you the ropes of competitive. So yeah, I think Unima looked quite good in this match. I think they were much more on point decision-wise. They're compared to their match against Tribe Gaming or Tea Drinkers. Not only did they play much better, they also just were taking better decisions overall. They were, it wasn't the same level of play they were bringing against Tea Drinkers. It was just they were struggling, and Tea Drinkers was obviously Tea Drinkers, and they were just so good. In this match, it really felt like Unima was able to shine much more, show us much more what they were made of as they take down Bright and secure their spot to the playoffs. So yeah, congratulations to them. It's always nice when you see a team improving a lot from game to game. Oh, a bit of a lag walk there from Unima as they were celebrating their win in Siege. But overall, good stuff on their end. It definitely feels a lot more like they had some small mistakes here and there they needed to work on, but it definitely feels like something they can improve by the time the playoffs come up.
That's right, indeed. Yeah, it was a good showing. Sadly for Bright, commiserations to them. They won't be playing a decider match on the Friday. They just been knocked out just a bit earlier, which is a little bit of a shame. But, they've put on a good effort, a good show. I'm hoping they do learn from the experience they've gained in this competition, like maybe what they need to do next in terms of their team overall. And speaking of overall, we do have the full match series stats here between both these teams. Again, 111,000 more damage, 31 more kills, an impressive showing from both teams, and pretty standard hero picks from the best ones. You can see the Max, Barley, Stu, Jean. Not really too much of a surprise there considering what modes we had. We only had 3 sets, so nothing really too much to come by. But I look forward to see what Unima can do in the future. It's nice to see another team who have progressed quite well. It's nice to see another team who can read their opponents like after just a game or two. Some teams kind of struggle in that department, which is why they do get eliminated quite early, or obviously they could lose their future decider matches. But some potential there we can see. Maybe not in a tier 1 kind of standings, but we can have to wait and see. But at least they've got the ability to possibly strive for it. And if you guys have not been around since the start of this stream, these are the standings or the results for Group H. And as you can see, Tea Drinkers did take down Unima Gaming 3-0, and then Tea Drinkers again, back-to-back series, took down Bright straight afterwards 3-0. Our Sky wasn't available to play today, sadly, so they had to forfeit both their opening match and their elimination match, which meant Bright had to go down to the decider match, but Unima Gaming had to go straight into their decider match too, which left Unima Gaming winning 3-0 against Bright.
Yeah, only 3-0 sweeps today. Definitely a bit of a more one-sided group for every single match. I do feel like Unima versus Bright could have gone on further if a couple of games went slightly a bit different. But yeah, Unima able to close it out in 3. Important for them, especially for those teams that have a bit less experience. It also means they're a bit less good with handling momentum. So I could definitely have seen, if Unima dropped a little game here and there, that things could have gotten way more heated. But congratulations to them. To close it out was a clean 3-0. It's always just a lot extra safety. You don't want to go in those long and tedious series because they get a lot more risky. And for those teams, qualifying is going to mean so much. So they are able to make it work, secure their spot for the playoffs with a very clean day. Despite their loss versus Tea Drinkers, it is one of the teams where I'm going to be looking for improvement for the playoffs, because they're going to need some. They're not ready yet for the Tea Drinkers, the SK Gamings, the AC Milan clash of EMEA. They're not at that level just yet. But with some practice, it is one of those teams where I feel like they could win a little match or two in the playoffs. If their preparation is done well, if they are ready for it, I can see it happening.
Yeah, it's nice. That's what I mean. Like earlier on, you do see some of those teams with, an element of potential there where, if there's something we can see in terms of like the future, then which can be rectified, then that should be fine. Like if it's a few minor mistakes here and there which can easily be improved on, then that's perfectly fine. They do seem to be a team where they gel quite well. You can tell that there's a lot of small talk going on with the way they're coordinating with each other. Little things here and there which could give them, all the pieces to the puzzle to make them push forward into like the tier 2, maybe even tier 1 in a year's time. You don't really too sure in terms of time frame what they're going to do. That's even if they stick as a team in the future, but we'll see what happens to them in the next stage. But just let you guys know at home, we do have an interview possibly shortly with Tom from Tea Drinkers. We're going to just wait for a little bit to see if he does turn up, and if he doesn't, then we'll call it a day and we'll be moving on to the decider matches tomorrow and the following day. But from what you've seen so far, just in terms of your thoughts process, Teddy, from what you've seen in the teams today, I don't think it was really too much of a surprise. Like we expected Tea Drinkers to be heavy favourites, they were heavy favourites, again, not surprised. And I feel like with a team like Ultimate, like they're not doing too bad now, but the only problem is with experience. If they have like a long day ahead of them, they're not going to be used to it as maybe some of the tier 1 teams, because there's a lot of stamina involved. So some of these players and teams can play to a huge length of time, but some of them can't because they're just not used to it.
Yeah, I think something to keep in mind as well is the scrimming opportunities are going to be vastly different from some of the teams that qualify for the playoffs, especially the second seed teams, the teams that end up in second place of the bracket. Just because they don't have as many opponents of high quality that are willing to scrim them. Unima, they're not going to be scrimming against Tea Drinkers, SK, and so on. So that could lead them to a bit of a disadvantage. On the other hand, there's the usual stuff, as they will have less VODs and resources available to analyze them and ready and prepare against them and try to counter their comps and whatever not. So that's all stuff to take into account. Unima is one of the teams I'm the most excited to see in the playoffs because I think that if they work hard, they can actually improve a lot throughout the entire Gamestars league, and I'm always looking for those teams that can get better and better by the day. With that being said, guys, it seems like Tom is not going to be able to participate in our interview, which does lead us towards the end of our show. Lethal, do you have any closing remarks?
Not really. I was gonna ask you the same question actually, but I didn't want you to basically say the exact same thing. I'm not really going to echo what you just said because I'm literally just going to say the same thing. It's kind of what we predicted with Tea Drinkers. Ultimately, it's nice to see them, show signs of life towards the end and actually be able to put on a good performance against Brighton. We look forward to seeing them in the next stage of the playoffs. But that is it from us from now. Thank you everyone for watching. We will be back the same time tomorrow, so make sure you stand by for that, as tomorrow and Friday it will be the decider matches. So it's crunch time for a lot of these teams. A lot of these teams will be going home. A lot of them will be progressing further towards the international finals. And again, as usual, thank you to production and you guys at home for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.